On Discovery Channel, they turned wrenches into gold as the custom motorbike kings. However, the American chopper actors completely lost it once filming ceased. Filings for bankruptcy uncovered millions of dollars worth of debt. A flurry of lawsuits broke out amongst relatives. The son who sued for $250,000 vanished without a trace. While another battled addiction, his father forbade him from living at home. The television mansion was foreclosed upon. The corporate dynasty fell. What transpired to every one of them is shocking, and they are now dispersed across the nation. Music. The senior, Paul Teutul. Inside Orange County choppers, he would stand like a monarch and bellow orders as he built dream motorcycles. His enormous arms folded, sunglasses on, and his words echoing around the store. The elder Paul Teutul wasn't merely a bicycle maker. Aside from being an icon of classic grit, he was also a TV star and a brand. As motors roared and tempers flared, fans cheered for every episode. However, behind the scenes, the empire was crumbling. Everything fell apart by February of 2018. Quietly acknowledging that he owed about 170,800 ringgit to nearly 50 separate creditors, he filed for Chapter 13 bankruptcy. He had 19001-729S listed as his assets. However, even more horrific was the reality. Even though he was making $1570.93 a month, he was spending $12,612 simply to cover his expenses. Almost little remained. His once proud Montgomery, New York estate went into foreclosure, much to the disappointment of his devoted television audience. He was forced to sell it in 2019 for only $1.5 million. He was seeking twice as much. Tools and farm animals were also part of the sale because every cent was important. However, financial issues weren't the sole catastrophe. His own business partner, Thomas Derbyshire, filed a fraud suit against him in 2017. To aid in the debut of a new performance, Derbyshire had contributed $3 million. Paul Sr., however, ate it up. Detailed in the court documents was the truth. He took a whole week off from filming so he could go fishing. Even though they had previously hired him, he still wouldn't cooperate. Without informing anyone, he withdrew funds from the budget to cover his son Michael's wages. On the side, he would barter dog food for supplies for his girlfriend's animal rescue initiative and pick up free merchandise for his store. Every action was concealed. It was business as usual. Lawlessness persisted thereafter. He was held in contempt of court in 2019 by a federal judge for failing to pay $17,000 to JTM Motorsports. His 2009 Chevrolet Corvette ZR1 had been serviced by them. Never did he pay them. Along with that, he had a back tax debt of $151,000, or $230.90, to the municipality of Crawford. In addition, he owed $21,300 on his credit cards. It went on from there. Claims arose linking him to a swindle that bilked Central American investors out of $12 to $15 million. His OC Roadhouse project in Florida was at the center of it all. He had already departed New York by March of 2020 when it came to music. The initial store that brought him fame had already been completed. Starting with the Orange County Museum and Roadhouse, he relocated everything to Clearwater, Florida. Music, the brand was still well known. We could still hear the bikes. But all that glitz had vanished. The funds had vanished. The faith had vanished. Even though he's 76 years old now, he still manufactures bikes and makes appearances on YouTube, where he acts, music, and grips handlebars as if nothing has changed. Teutul, Paul Jr. A mighty empire formerly had Paul Teutul Jr. as its public face. He surprised the world with his custom choppers, which were created to music. The Discovery Channel featured his creations. He helped build Orange County Choppers into a household name alongside his father, Paul Sr. Unfortunately, his brief period of popularity was cut short by a series of law battles, betrayal, and bankruptcy, which nearly wiped out all he had worked for. In 2008, when American choppers were at the top of their game, everything started to fall apart. Paul Sr. lost it with his kid while the cameras were filming. Disagreement was nothing new. For a long time, they argued over who had the last say. This time, though, it took music to a new level. On national television, Paul Sr. dismissed his son. Jr. went out the door in an instant. Downsized team, no office, no bikes. However, the company's records still included his name. A 20% stake in Orange County Choppers was under his name. It was at that point that hostilities actually began. Sr. disapproved of his kid having any possessions. He was able to entirely remove Jr. from the company after he triggered a buyout clause hidden in their business agreement. Music, however, Sr.'s own appraiser asserted that the 20% was worth zero instead of assigning it a fair value. Completely null. The son, who was instrumental in founding the company and created the iconic bikes, was suddenly informed that his stake had no value whatsoever. Jr. put up a fight. He took the matter to court and was successful in his appeal by December 2010. The judges found the agreement to be unenforceable. Music. The method of determining the value was never agreed upon by them. Even if Paul Jr. was able to retain his investment, the harm had already been done. The company had become a battleground, and the family had been shattered. Their 2009 temporary truce was an attempt to save the Discovery Channel pact. Nonetheless, the unease lingered. The faith had vanished. Therefore, Jr. began anew. Paul Jr., his own company, was launched by him. Plans, and he relocated his business to Ship Bottom, New Jersey. Despite lacking the original band, the original garage, and the support of a reality TV empire, he possessed music, his hands, his style, and his name. Renowned companies started phoning. For Microsoft, Cadillac, and Mercedes-Benz, he constructed one-of-a-kind helicopters. People continued to gawk at the bikes. However, monetary issues began to surface in the background of the achievement. The figures revealed the truth by March of 2018. Paul Jr.'s bankruptcy petition was for Chapter 13. His obligations totaled $178.93 def, which was virtually equal to his assets of $18001,729s. Plus, he had $513.08 in unpaid taxes. His $1.8 million estate in Montgomery, New York, was his most valuable possession. Everything was about to break apart because that house wasn't adequate. The fall was gradual and excruciating. The notoriety remained, but the wealth was vanished. Paul Jr. is still very much involved at this point. He makes an appearance at events featuring premium motorbikes. The posh concourse activities are judged by him. The empire he helped build is no longer a part of him, but he is still involved in bike building, music. He was replaced by the Orange County Choppers. His current net worth of $2 million is significantly lower than his potential. His bicycles were showcased all over the globe. A family garage business became a household name with his assistance. Finally, he betrayed the guy who had taught him everything, which cost him the store, his reputation, and his confidence. It just took 10 years to go from being a television royalty to being in bankruptcy court. In spite of everything, he persisted in constructing. Teutul Mikey. Fans of Paul Sr. and Paul Jr.'s crazy brawls and custom music bikes tuned into American Chopper when it first on television. However, a sanity-inspiring individual would always emerge amidst the mayhem. Bikes weren't Mikey Teutul's thing. Neither yelling nor hurling wrenches were his actions. He was chatting with customers, taking calls, and tidying up the area surrounding Orange County Choppers when the music started. In a show that was otherwise heavy metal, he was the gentle touch. What the majority of viewers failed to notice, though, was that Mikey's true enemy wasn't anyone in his family. He was the one involved. The bottle was involved. He began to drink subtly, as if it were an annoyance in his life. That sound, however, was increasingly audible as the seasons changed. Everyone was touched by Mikey's addiction. Every fiber of his being was shattered by it. Paul Sr., who had started the company from scratch, finally snapped and couldn't handle the music longer. It wasn't a mere respite. Without exception, Paul Sr. expelled Mikey from Orange County Choppers. A store, a television program, and a family firm. A single heartless choice destroyed it all. When Mikey stopped appearing in episodes, fans started to notice. He did not attend the build. He was nowhere to be seen. As more and more people sought answers, the truth became more sinister than anyone had anticipated. Mikey checked himself into treatment after he had sunk to an all-time low, as the music played. Either he would battle for his life or nothing would matter. Problems persisted even after he stopped drinking. Scott Gunnels, a photographer, filed a copyright infringement lawsuit against Mikey Paul Sr. and Orange County Choppers in 2019. Photos of Mikey were taken by Gunnels in 2013. The program, Facebook pages, music, and products all began to feature the identical photographs. Shirts are priced at $19.95 and sweatshirts at $39.99. One of the photographs utilized for Mikey's art exhibition had his branding cropped off. He had not authorized it. Gunnels was granted a favorable ruling by a federal judge on February 18, 2020. Paul Sr. was fined $258.4845 for unauthorized use of the pictures. For a family that had been emotionally and legally battered for years, it was a significant strike. The financial woes persisted. In 2004, Mikey bought a house from his own mother, Paula, for $550,000. In Montgomery, New York, there was peace and quiet. However, he was forced to sell that identical house for only $460,000 5 years later, in 2009, music. His net worth, which was $2 million at one point, gradually declined until it reached $1 million, and he lost $90,000. Money wasn't the only factor. It was about the ways in which his life was being encircled by music. Notoriety was going downhill. He was no longer associated with motorbikes or humor. It had ties to litigation, substance abuse, and remaining silent. However, Mikey persisted in his efforts. He started putting the pieces back together after a stint in rehab, legal fights, and the loss of the family home. He returned to the Orange County Choppers, but this time he was the deputy general manager rather than a star. In charge of the Facebook page was he. There was no stopping him. The part was minor, but consistent. In addition to making and selling gourmet pasta sauces from scratch, he launched his own business, Fark Products LLC. Being renowned was no longer a priority. Achieving an authentic musical experience was the main goal. He launched an exhibition space in Montgomery. Metal sculptures, paintings, and other works by him that might communicate silently filled the space. Hi, my name is Vinny D. Martino. Leaving Orange County Choppers in August of 2007, Vinny D. Martino gathered all of his tools. Over the course of 5 years, he, music, created some of the show's most recognizable motorcycles. His skill, his cool demeanor, and his crisp lines won him many fans. As Vinny submitted his notice, Paul Teutul, Sr., stared directly into the camera and uttered the words, "Everyone's replaceable. No thanks, no handshake, no respect." This icy statement struck Vinny like a punch to the gut. Instead of arguing, he simply departed. But that wasn't all. He teamed up with Cody Connolly, a fellow young Orange County builder. Also, in Rock Tavern, New York, they co-founded V-Force Customs. They wasted no time at all. Customers arrived, bikes were constructed, and the shop got off to a solid start, music. In American Chopper, Senior vs. Junior, 2010, Vinny made a triumphant return to television, co-starring with Paul Jr. Of the 65 episodes that were airing, he was in 55 of them. It appeared for 4 seasons that everything was falling into place, musically speaking. The dream was very lifelike. However, events beyond the store were unfolding at a dizzying pace. Next, there was a hit. Banks and stock, music, markets weren't the only ones rocked by the 2008 financial crisis. It was a disaster for the world of custom motorcycles. Custom choppers were no longer in demand by the end of 2013. Nobody was purchasing. Shows and stores were no longer supported by the culture. Regardless of how competent Vinny was, it was irrelevant. All of the purchasers had departed. The losses mounted. V-Force Customs was doomed to failure. Vinny sold the tools that had supported his ambition one by one. Disappearance of lathes, welders, paint guns, and music. He silently closed the store. No final farewell, no limelight. All you can hear is the sound of doors shutting and hopes collapsing. A terrible U-turn was undertaken by Vinny that same year. He established DeMartino Motorsports in Montgomery with the little resources he had remaining. No, fancy bicycles and cable TV weren't at issue this time. Keeping the lights on was the main concern. Now he fixes vehicles and light trucks for local folks instead of constructing custom choppers for the world. In this garage, you won't find any fans hunched over the ropes or cameras, just hard work, honest tools, and grease. His current musical wealth is said to be close to $1 million. Though it may appear little for someone who was once a star on a popular reality show, it is all he has accomplished by working tirelessly and independently. That day in 2007, when Vinny walked out, he demonstrated something: music. He may have done it without Paul Sr.'s blessing. Success was enough for him. All he needed was a little self-confidence to start over. Additionally, he was able to keep the music running even when everything else failed. Michael Petco. Rick Petco, for 13 years, would get out of bed in Pennsylvania and travel 90 minutes simply to reach his place of employment. Every day, he would finish by going back and doing it all over again, musically speaking. It's the equivalent of spending 3 hours every day, 5 days a week, squished between trucks and taillights in order to get to the most boisterous store on television. That pattern was maintained mechanically by music, Rick from July 2003 to 2016. Rick subtly persisted in constructing bikes and consistently showed up, even while the Teutul's at Orange County choppers hurled wrenches, smashed furniture, and yelled from across the floor. The road was devouring his life, but no one on TV noticed. It was a lucrative gig for him. Rick received an additional $13,000 on top of his regular OCC salary for each episode in which he made an appearance. It was a total of checks. His wealth had increased to almost $1.75 million by the time he departed. But there was a hidden cost to all that cash. It was mayhem in the store. Never once did the cameras pause. Rick was avoiding his wife in favor of his steering wheel, and the arguments were genuine. His life took a dramatic turn in 2012 when he tied the knot. He became increasingly aware of the drain on his energy and time as he spent more and more time behind the wheel and less time engaging with his co-workers as they argued over frames, deadlines, and loyalty. He became popular thanks to the show. He became wealthy, yet he was miserable as a result. That being said, Rick took the kind of action that many discuss but seldom really take in 2016. With that, he left. Long live the television camera. Bonuses every episode are no more. After an hour and a half of driving, there's no need to face a slew of angry people anymore. Before returning home, Rick gathered all of his tools to nearby areas as well as Pennsylvania. Now, his new employment was literally just a few minutes away. Even though commuting was no longer a major issue for him, he decided to join Pocono Mountain Harley-Davidson in Stroudsburg. He spoke his mind to the Pocono Record. Although it was enjoyable while it was happening, it did not represent my essence. His own farmstead now serves as his office. He began making one-of-a-kind knives and wedding bands under the name RPD and Co-Others. With his family by his side, he enjoys attending motorcycle shows. Once again, he makes things by hand, this time without yelling, cameras, or drama. Connolly, Cody. When Cody Connolly first entered the Orange County Choppers universe, he was only 14 years old. Most students his age were still trying to figure out their schoolwork in 2001. Cody, however, was already in possession of welding equipment and was watching the Teutul family teach on national television. He wasn't some peripheral character. Over the course of the show, viewers saw him mature into one of the most talented and youthful bike fabricators they had ever seen. The Cody Project, his very own unique build, was even given to him in the first season. Also, it wasn't for nothing. At the 2003 Daytona Beach Bike Week, that bike was sold. It appeared as though, Cody had everything going for him for a spell. His elder brother Paul Teutul even footed the bill for his education at the American Motorcycle Institute so he could hone his musical abilities. Everything appeared to be a dream at first glance. Still, the facts came out quickly. The song begins with Cody walking away in October 2007. Despite his youth, the break was everything but quiet. He stunned everyone who watched the broadcast when he sued Orange County Choppers and musician Paul Sr. This once-loved child was now suing the man who had claimed him as a relative. Cody asserted that his likeness remained on items following his departure. Despite buying a plethora of items, posters, coloring books, and other gear, he never received payment. The financial aspect wasn't even the worst. Paul Sr. claimed ownership of a bespoke helicopter and gave Cody the keys in that moment, which was captured on tape. It was never given to Cody, according to him. The audience, not real life, was meant for the keys. He sought a sum of $250,000 as compensation. In response to questions about his delay, Cody stated that he was unaware of his rights at the time. Despite his youth, he was all alone. In 2011, the matter was finally, music, resolved out of court after a protracted battle. There was no grand finale, no public remorse, and only quiet. After that, Cody vanished from the motorcycle community completely. He had left the entertainment sector that had brought him fame. He initiated a fresh endeavor. Rebel Ranch Excavation is a Pine Bush, New York-based demolition firm. Dirt, septic tanks, clearing land, and drainage are all part of his job description. There he is, married. There is a girl in his family. Even on social media, he isn't very active. Away from the cameras and the music, the lad who built gas tanks on TV now digs through dirt. Jason is a Pole. Following that was designer Jason Paul, who started working at OC in the beginning of 2004. His previous work included computerized choppers for a pinball game. This was all before the event. A senior designer position opened up for him after Paul Sr. viewed his work. At first, everyone was amazed by Jason's creations. He brought with him futuristic-looking technological abilities and wild notions. The internet, however, did not adore him. Actually, they despised him. Many viewers thought he was haughty. His admirers said he defended himself by trolling online message boards. According to one writer, Jason was undoubtedly aware he was the most disliked character on American Chopper. Critics frequently said that his pictures did not accurately depict motorbikes. Paul Sr. had to keep reminding him that a drawing had to be turned into a writable thing. In the spin-off between the senior and junior teams, the most cruel moment occurred when Paul Sr. became angry with one of Jason's builds and referred to it as a cake decorator. Jason sobbed in front of the camera. According to him, the designs were personal, and it killed him to see the business owner publicly criticize his work. O.C. Paul Jr. and Jesse James engaged in a build-up in 2011. The strange tank-like bike that Jason helped construct has flamethrowers. Things didn't work out. Online users chortled. Some very serious motorcyclists scowled. It appeared more like a fantasy from a video game than a motorcycle, according to critics. And that joke stayed with Jason. By February of 2018, OC had completely collapsed. Chapter 13 bankruptcy was filed by Paul Sr. He was the target of 8 lawsuits and had accrued credit card debt totaling over $66,000. After then, Jason's screen time drastically decreased. There was an official departure in March of 2020. After relocating to Florida in 2021, he never looked back. He is currently an ambassador for the SolidWorks brand. Nowhere near bike stores or television cameras does he create his creations. He is said to have a net worth of about $700,000. 3D models, software, and harmony, no more shouting or flames. Nicholas Hansford. Secretly constructing motorcycles and maintaining his sanity, Nick Hansford was the only member of the Orange County Choppers group who refrained from getting emotional on video or in court. He and Christian Welter had a shared goal of one day riding solo across the country, and they had both trained at Florida's American Motorcycle Institute. Working at Pompano Fats and Daytona Choppers in his early years helped Nick hone his skills, but Bike Week in 2000 was the turning point. Nick met Paul Teutul, Sr., there. Paul noticed Nick's music, quiet confidence and recruited him to work as a distributor and technician at OC. Nick uprooted his life in 2002, 2 years after leaving Florida, to be closer to family in New York. He would never be the same after making that choice. He dedicated 17 years of his life to working as a mechanic at the OC shop, during which time he made frequent appearances on American Chopper and Orange County Choppers till 2019. Nick remained focused on his task at hand while others shouted at each other on screen or in court. Avoiding the court battles, feuds, bankruptcies, and drama was his strategy. He never achieved superstardom, but he did get better and more stable. No one is sure of his current whereabouts or activities. He and his wife currently reside in Virginia with their music, 2 children. He remains silent and refrains from sharing. He voluntarily faded from public notice. Walter Christian. With his own musical spin, Christian Walter had an equally consistent tale. He entered this world in New Jersey on September 9, 1978. Along with Nick Hansford, he was a student at the American Motorcycle Institute. Everything would stem from that one roommate connection. Christian became a part of OC in 2002, right in the beginning of the show's run. He was understated and unassuming. He avoided confrontations. He merely labored. Every one of the custom choppers that rolled out of the shop had his hand in the wiring, music, assembly, and the majority of the technical work because he was both head mechanic and shop foreman. It was Christian who was at the rear, making sure the bikes actually ran, while Paul Sr. was shouting and Jr. was storming out. He skillfully sidestepped each public embarrassment that befell the rest of the group. Paul Sr. did not include Christian in his 2018 bankruptcy petition, which included monthly expenses of more than $12,600. He continued to work. All had been maintained tidy by him. He had been studying drums privately for 7 years, beginning when he was 12 years old. A band was created upon the discovery of this fact by Steve Morrow, the general manager of OC. They even put out a 10-song album after practicing in the boiler room. Despite Christian's complaints that it was cut short and underwhelming, the event did take place. He remained at OC until 2016, after which he discreetly departed. Silent departures after years of consistent work, free of litigation, headlines, and meltdowns. Teutul, Daniel. His downfall nearly brought the entire empire crashing down, even though he wasn't on the show or involved in the brawls like music, Paul Jr. or the public fires like Paul Sr. One of Paul Sr.'s eldest sons was Daniel. Not only that, but he inherited the family firm, OC Ironworks, in 2004. It appeared to be a present, but secretly, there was an ulterior motive. Tom Geneva, a bankruptcy trustee, made a surprising allegation in 2007. He said that Daniel and his relatives had formed a new business, Orange County Ironworks LLC, and had stolen all of OC Ironworks' valuable assets, including machinery, employees, and accounts, before pocketing the money. The former business failed financially. Creditors received zero. It wasn't merely careless dealings. Claims of fraud were made. Daniel was 32 years old and faced a huge fine when everything settled in December 2008. He was subsequently fined $500,000. Only $50,000 was required of Paul Sr. and Paul Jr. Their punishment was 10 times less severe than Daniel's. The typical American household income was around $40,000 in those days. It was a wrecking ball, not only a fine. Yet, Daniel remained steadfast. He refrained from appearing on television in an inappropriate state. A bankruptcy was not filed by him. Returning to his task, music, went. His efforts to improve the company's name and expand its operations spanned years. A second business venture, Gabriel Steel, was launched by him. He increased his staff size from 35 to 69 by the year 2024. The fact that he constructed the enormous OC headquarters, the very same one that brought fame to his brother's television careers, is even more astonishing. No one ever acknowledged his efforts. The brand's public face was never him, music. However, he had played a crucial role in its construction, albeit quietly. Amid his brother's public feud and subsequent loss of millions of dollars, Daniel transformed a scandal involving $500,000 into a formidable steel business in New York.